2025. Live well to the rhythm of your own steps is the topic that Think Like a Great would like to share with you today. It's a reflection drawn from the treasure chest of classic literature, a masterpiece titled Walden, or Life in the Woods, by American writer, poet, and philosopher Henry David Thoreau. First, allow me to send warm wishes to all of you uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, and friends who are watching and following our channel. May your hearts be filled with passion, and may you live each moment fully and meaningfully, walking boldly on the path you've chosen. As we look ahead to 2025, my hope is that each of us will be able to live well to the rhythm of our own steps. Now, let's dive into today's video. A man who never marched to the beat of another in 1837. A remarkably gifted young man named Henry David Thoreau entered Harvard University. In his spare time, he wrote essays and submitted them to local newspapers not for fame or recognition, but simply out of passion. He read widely, yet resisted following in the footsteps of others. He was determined to carve out his own unique path. He lived during a time of great economic expansion in 19th century America, an age when society was surging toward industrialization. People were racing through life, some riding the waves of fortune, accumulating wealth and becoming icons of success. Others sticking with inherited careers out of loyalty and resilience. Some retreated to farms in the countryside, while others, despite their best efforts, fell behind. Too many, these were the ones left behind, the unfortunate, the failures, the ones who could never quite keep up. After graduating, Thoreau first tried journalism, but his work wasn't accepted by editors. He later opened a private school with his brother, but the school eventually shut down. He ended up working in his father's pencil factory. In that job, he excelled. He even developed a new technology to produce pencils of superior quality, which brought the family a great fortune. But then, Thoreau made a surprising decision. He stopped the business altogether. Why? Because to him, repeating the same task just for money felt soul-crushing. He didn't want to be tied down by a job that offered nothing but routine, nor be driven by desires for fancy meals or luxurious homes like everyone else. As people around him grew wealthier, Thoreau grew poorer. He couldn't even afford his rent. And whenever someone suggested he follow the examples of others, Thoreau stood firm and replied, "I would rather sit on a pumpkin and have it all to myself, than be crowded on a velvet cushion. I would rather ride in a humble ox cart on earth freely than travel in a luxurious carriage to heaven." To Thoreau, what mattered most in life was not keeping up with others or fitting in. Success, as defined by society, wasn't necessarily the path to true happiness. What truly mattered was finding your own rhythm, your own beat, and living in tune with it. Because he chose not to conform, because he refused to be limited by anyone else's rules, he became the man we now know as Henry David Thoreau, a writer, poet, naturalist, philosopher, and pioneer of transcendentalism, one of the most influential American thinkers on the relationship between nature and the human spirit. He remains one of the rare post-19th century American writers, whose works are loved and revered by readers around the world. At 28, he gave up everything and went into the woods at the age of 28. While most people were chasing wealth and status, Thoreau gave it all up. With only a borrowed axe, he walked into the pine forest by Walden Pond. There he chopped trees, built a cabin, and cleared the land all by himself. From his cabin he witnessed the serene beauty of the lake. Every day as he walked through the forest, he heard the larks sing. During the winter, he chopped wood to prepare for the cold. In the spring, he finally completed the frame of his home. Using some of his savings, he bought a little wood, and began decorating the inside of his simple dwelling. He built that cabin with his own hands, slowly, peacefully, mindfully, neither rushed, pressured, nor lazy. It was his home, created in harmony with nature and his own rhythm. For the next 2 years, he kept company with the stars, the mountains, the lakes, and the birds. He talked to nature, the fish, the trees, the sky. His thoughts soared freely in the stillness of the woods, and out of that experience he distilled a profound and timeless work, Walden, or Life in the Woods. A quiet lake, a self-built wooden cabin surrounding it, a forest echoing with birdsong. Thoreau's Life by Walden Pond has touched the hearts of countless readers around the world. Walden not only shaped American literature, but also influenced social movements, including Gandhi's and perhaps even Mahatma Tranlukphong, name to be confirmed. It continues to resonate deeply with modern souls longing for peace. Thoreau once said, "Man has become the tool of his tools." And he also wrote, "A person will only succeed if they advance in the direction of their dreams and strive to live the life they've imagined." Life is like a marathon. Everyone is running, but not in the same direction and certainly not at the same pace. Some people succeed early, some bloom late, some live quietly through their days, and some are cut short far too soon. Your dreams, talents, mindset, even your luck hole, these things can become variables that make your life path entirely different from others. We will never walk in perfect rhythm with everyone else. We will never rise and fall in complete sync. If you constantly ask, "How far have I gone? How much have I achieved compared to them?" you might miss the rhythm of your own life. Only by running at your own pace and living well within your own rhythm can you remain steady through life's storms and eventually arrive at your own flourishing spring. It is in walking to your own beat that you find the strength to endure everything. When Thoreau arrived at Walden Pond, the path ahead was filled with difficulty. His first challenge was simply survival in the middle of a wild forest. During the days he spent building his cabin, cutting timber, hauling it from early morning, his physical energy was drained. But with little money, he had neither the time nor means to grow crops or raise animals. So he survived each day on cornmeal and wild greens. Locals warned him, "You can't live out here without bread or pork. Where would you even get such things?" But Thoreau proved otherwise. Even with just corn and wild plants, he stayed healthy. In truth, hunger was not the hardest challenge. Winter at Walden lasted 3 to 4 months. On snowy days, his wooden cabin felt like an icy cellar. Still, he found ways to endure the bitter cold, chopping aged firewood in the snow-covered forest, keeping the fire alive day and night, and sealing the walls with mortar to trap heat. And in those long, quiet months, when few people came to visit, Thoreau walked through each night in his own rhythm, not panicked, not anxious. He wasn't disturbed by the world's noise. He wasn't defeated by harsh conditions. No matter what path you choose, you will face trials. The key is to nurture a strong heart, one that stays calm, summons courage, and keeps moving forward on the road you've chosen. In Walden, Thoreau beautifully describes a summer morning. He's rowing a small boat across the still lake. At some point, he lays back and drifts into sleep. When he wakes, the water has gently pushed the boat back to shore. He writes, "My heart was free as a bird." Though his days at Walden were filled with hardship, he discovered a peace and happiness he had never known before. Each day nature sent him a new guest. Sometimes a breeze carrying floral scents. Sometimes a timid sparrow. Sometimes a clueless rabbit wandering by. Whenever he stepped into the forest, he felt a wild primal energy awaken within him. And when night fell, he would hear the distant call of cattle, the barking of dogs, the whisper of wind and water. It was nature's symphony, and, even alone, he never felt lonely. He wrote, moved by this, my heart was free. Joy and happiness overflowed in my little home. In that state of freedom, he began to meditate, reflect on philosophy, observe nature, and explore the true depths of his inner world. He read extensively. He wrote passionately. He welcomed deep conversations with kindred spirits. His time at Walden helped him redefine himself. He was not a failure, not a recluse retreating from life. He was someone who truly lived like a tree rooted deeply in the earth, while never forgetting to look up at the vast, infinite sky. Thoreau's story reminds me of a beautiful quote from Haruki Murakami. No matter what the world says, I believe my own feelings are true. No matter what others may think, I will never break my rhythm. And that's exactly it. What you truly love you can persist with. What you don't know, matter how hard you try, will eventually slip away. So if every step you take is merely copying someone else's path, even if you succeed, you will not feel real joy. You won't find your life's meaning. You won't taste the freedom of your soul. That's why you must truly know yourself. Listen to your own heart before the world tells you who to be. Let go of external noise, and draw your own path. A reader once wrote a letter to Thoreau after reading his work, expressing the desire to follow in his footsteps and live alone in nature. Surprisingly, Thoreau firmly declined. He told the reader, each person should follow their own heart and live as their one true, unique self. This was precisely the purpose behind his writing. His hope was that everyone could become their own Christopher Columbus. If Columbus once bravely crossed the ocean to discover a new continent, then each of us must also discover the continent of our own soul, to live in and fully experience the land that truly belongs to us. There are no two identical leaves in the world, just as there are no two people who are exactly alike. Only by walking our own path can we live a life that is genuinely fulfilling and meaningful to us. As one great scientist once said, the most beautiful things often appear when you least expect them. So there's no need to rush to match someone else's pace. Just walk steadily, calmly, in your own rhythm, and you will continue to grow with each passing day. Thoreau only lived by Walden Pond for 2 years. I'm sure many people have wondered, in the end, didn't he abandon his rhythm and give up? But Thoreau's reason for leaving was as intentional as his reason for going. He wanted to experience many different lives, and he simply no longer wished to devote more time to that one place. There's a truth about life. We often slip into routines without even realizing it. And then, before we know it, we've fallen into a rut. When you become too comfortable with joy, with success, or with your current life, you risk treading a well-worn path. Just think of how many footprints have already been left on this earth. The same is true for the life of the mind. So many of the world's broad paths have been worn down, dusty with use. The weight of tradition and social conventions has pressed deeply, even into our most personal experiences. Few are like Thoreau. He discovered a truth worth remembering. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life they have imagined, they will meet with success unexpected in common hours. That is to say, you don't need to follow in the footsteps of others to be successful. You can choose your own road, one that leads to a life you truly desire. And now, the final section, refined for clarity, grammar, and flow, while preserving the spirit and message of your original text. Why do we lower the standards of our soul just to live with dull thoughts and repetitive work, calling it conformity, and assuming that's the way it's supposed to be? Why do we throw ourselves into work solely in pursuit of success, fame, or simply to make a living? Some say any work done only to survive isn't worth wasting a lifetime on. And when you think about it, it's true. There's a reality we all face. If someone constantly strains to keep up with their peers, it may be because they've heard the beating of a different drum, or are trying to meet some unmet need. But often those steps are driven by thoughts shaped by the molds of society. We've dressed everything around us in layers of symbols and meanings. Yet in the end, only truth brings real value. Only truth can stand firm against the test of time, and that truth begins with this very question. Are you truly happy with the life you're living right now? Even if your life is modest, live it wholeheartedly. Live it well, in your own rhythm. Never run away from it. Don't blame it. Don't curse it. Even in hardship. Give your passion to the life you're living now. Even if you live in a narrow space, you can still find joy and light to guide you forward. Just as Confucius once said, do not be too anxious to grow quickly, and do not rely too much on outside forces. All of that is in vain. Wealth can only buy the excess. But the essentials of the soul, you don't need money to touch them, Walden. Or, Life in the Woods will undoubtedly leave each reader with a different impression. We don't all need to agree with it. We don't all need to resonate with every word. But if you're carrying dissatisfaction in your heart, if you're weighed down by the gap between what you want and what you have, if you're unsure about the next step to take in life, then I believe if you immerse yourself in Thoreau's original words, you might just find a peaceful Walden within your own mind. And at the very end of the book, Thoreau leaves us with a closing line that I've often pondered. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. The sun is but a morning star. In his footnote, Thoreau suggests that the morning star is like a guiding light, pointing us toward a new direction. He hoped that in the time we have left, we could all discover a new path by our own rhythm and experience. A life that is completely our own, because the value of life isn't measured by how much we possess, but by the experiences we've had. May we all step out of the well-worn paths, discover what we truly love to do, and live fully in our own unique rhythm. And may you live each moment with wholehearted passion. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.